Okay, I call to order the Planning Commission meeting for Wednesday, April 10th, 2019. And first order of businesses are Tom over here.
Yeah, I think you all have heard the great news, but Ms. Robin Craig will be leaving the planning division, going to work as a clerk of council. Robin came to planning, I guess, 11 years ago.
2006.
Yep. So, and Robin's been a faithful co-worker, but more importantly, friend. She's kind of been the person that's held our department together at times. She's the one that brings Christmas to City Hall, right?
Yep.
So we're going to miss her, but we're proud of her, as she should be of herself, because this is something she's been working towards for a long time. And I know she's going to do well. She'll be missed, but she'll just be up on the third floor. And
Thank you.
she promised to come and do the Christmas party.
I will miss y'all. Thank you. It's pretty scary. It's similar duties, but way more intimidating.
I'm sure we're a lot nicer, too.
Yeah. No, they were all very nice. I've never done an interview panel with 7 people around the table. That was quite challenging. So, but they all seem excited to have me, and I'm looking forward to being a part of that team.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, folks, I think a resolution of appreciation is in order. And this is no undue pride of authorship, so if we need to tweak it a little bit, I'm more than happy to do so. And I do need to get another date to fill in on something here, Robin. So we're not going to ask you to type your own resolution. We will get that taken care of for you. So, but a resolution of appreciation. Whereas Robin Craig has been an employee of the city of Lynchburg since, and whereas Robin has been the administrative assistant serving the Office of Planning and the Planning Commission since 2006, and whereas Robin Craig has been selected by Lynchburg City Council to serve as the clerk of City Council. Therefore, the Lynchburg Planning Commission expresses their highest level of appreciation to Robin Craig for her professionalism and positive interpersonal skills, and wishes her the best for her continued distinguished career.
Thank you very much.
So that would be my resolution for our consideration.
All right. Any comments?
No. I agree completely.
So is there a second?
Second.
All right, we'll vote on it. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Yep.
That was very thoughtful.
Yeah. Well, and we will get something to you.
Yeah,
We have a replacement too?
There will be one, not a replacement, because you can't replace Robin,
Thank you.
but someone to fill the position.
Actually, there's a subplot here. I expect to have better chairs.
I'll see what I can do.
There's someone on the inside. See what you can work out for us.
well, we lose a certain amount of institutional memory, and I've appreciated work with you for close to 3 years, and it's been really appreciated. So
Thank you.
we're all in debt to the stuff you've done. So moving on, the second order of business is the following public hearing item: petition to the First Church of Jesus for a conditional use permit at 219 Jackson Street to allow the construction of a fellowship hall and bring the existing church into conformity in an R3 medium density residential district. So I believe, Tom, you'll...
Sure, Mr. Chair, members of Planning Commission, this is a conditional use permit request to allow the construction of a fellowship hall. The existing church building was built in 1930, so it was built prior to the existing zoning regulations. So therefore, a conditional use permit had never been requested for this church. The church is well established in the Timbridge neighborhood. It is within the boundaries covered by the growing Timbridge neighborhood plan. The fellowship hall is proposed to be used mainly for gathering spaces and classrooms. Staff feels like this is a good addition to the church. The only concern that we have and recommendation is that it blend with the existing church building. and that was so noted in the report. However, we do recommend approval of the conditional use permit.
Great, thank you. Who's here to speak on behalf of the proposal? If you could please sign your name and tell us who you are and then explain what's.
Hi, I'm Trent Warner with Hurt and Profit. I'm here on behalf of the church and out of our office, Patrick Profit, who could not be here today. He's on vacation this week, so he asked if I would step in for him. So I guess your all's loss. But anyway, Pat filled me in a little bit on the project, and it's just what Tom explained. I did want to say it's not an expansion of their services. These are things that they're already doing within the existing building, but they're really crammed trying to get it done. So this is an expansion for what they're already using.
Great, it might just stay there. Is there anybody else to speak in favor of this? Anyone opposed? Okay, it'd be good if there's any conversation and questions, just being up here would be good, but we'll close the public hearing and discuss it here. Anybody have any comments?
I'm all in favor of it.
I'm glad the church is doing so well that they need more space. It's a great little neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, this area has been seeing a lot of revitalization going back to the plan back in 2014, I think, and I strongly support the project. Tom, regarding your comment, there's nothing explicit where they've agreed to the building matching the existing structure, right?
No, I'm not sure if they even know yet. It's really just a recommendation, but I think it is something that they should consider.
But you're
So Trent, do you even know what the materials are going to be yet?
My assumption was, looking at it, was they probably were putting a brick facade on it, but I honestly just assumed that in my mind when Pat was talking to me. I never legitimately asked that question, so I didn't even think about a proffer or anything like that. I'm sorry, I don't know that. I don't know that answer.
Okay.
It may be something, I'll tell you before we go to council, if it is an issue, I can get Pat to work with you and see if we need to come up with that for council.
That's my only thing, I was going to emphasize the same point. I think that sounds great. It sounds like we're all in favor of it. With that in mind, I would move that we accept the motion as stated.
second it?
Okay, we'll go into a vote then. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, well, it carries, and good luck. I think it'll work out fine, and see how things come together at City Council. Thank you, Mr. Warner.
Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Great. The second order of business is a public hearing regarding the petition of Rebke Company to rezone approximately 93/100 of an acre located at 1503 Gray Street from B1 Limited Business District to B4 Urban Commercial District to allow the use of the property as 50 apartments.
So, members of the Planning Commission, this property contains a 47,000 square foot building, which is a larger building here. It also contains a smaller, I believe it's 2,200 square foot building. The property is currently zoned B1 Limited Business District. In the B1 Limited Business District, apartments, residential uses are only permitted by conditional use permit. However, there are also development standards that go along with the B1 district residential uses. It's a minimum of 6,000 square feet lot size, and then 2,000 square foot per residential unit. So when you do all those calculations, essentially what it does to this property is it would limit it to no more than 16 units. Obviously, that does not make sense for a building like this. I think the units would end up being something like 3,000 square feet, which is larger than a lot of people's homes. So the proposal is to rezone it to be for urban commercial, which would allow for the 50 units that are being requested. Planning staff is actually very excited that this developer has chosen to come and do this project. They've done many other successful projects within the city. So we know that it'll be done in a very reputable fashion. It is supported by the city's comprehensive plan, which recommends a traditional neighborhood residential use for the property. There is parking on site. Although B4 districts do not have a parking minimum, there would be 46 spaces available on site to serve the 50 units. We do recommend approval of the rezoning and would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Great, thanks. And who's here to speak on behalf of this proposal? Please sign your name, state your name. Thank you.
Members of the Planning Commission, my name is Justin Fournier, and I work with Balzer and Associates, and I am representing Rebke for this rezoning project. Tom did a great job of explaining what the proposed project is. The developer is looking to preserve the historic character of the building using tax credits as part of the redevelopment. One thing to note is we think we could actually get 50 on-site parking spaces as currently drawn. So that would give us a 1-to-1, one space per one unit for parking requirements. And that was 46 in the main parking, or 44, 2 by the small building, and then there's 4 actually in the loading area in the back that will no longer be loading in the future. And as Tom explained, with the current zoning, this just would be completely underutilizing the existing building and honestly not make it economically feasible. So we hope that you consider approval of this as we hope to improve the site in general, make the parking lot nicer, the exterior nicer than its current vacant state. That's pretty much it. Happy to answer any questions.
Great, thanks. We'll probably be calling you up again before it's all finished. Is there anybody here to speak in favor of the petition? Okay, anybody opposed like to speak? Oh, okay. Well, we'll close the public hearing. We might be calling you up, likely, but we'll go ahead and discuss this here.
Well, I drive past this location at least 2 or 3 times a week, sometimes more often than that. I've been concerned about it for a long time. So when I found out that this was in the pipeline, I was absolutely ecstatic that the building was going to be repurposed. And as Mr. Martin said, Repke's got a good reputation, and obviously I haven't seen the business plan, but this is going to be a real nice stabilization upgrade to the neighborhood back there. And I just, I'm just real happy to see it, and I certainly am going to vote in favor of it.
I've got a question for you, sir. Are the parking spaces going to be numbered or assigned, or is it just first come, first served?
I don't know definitively at this time. I imagine it would be first come, first serve.
And the apartments are going to be fairly small, one-bedroom apartments, is that right?
It's going to be a mix.
A mix of one and
whatever
two.
what the market's going to support, essentially.
Okay. So
but
there
yeah,
could be,
there could be studios, there could be 2 bedrooms. I don't know. Do we have 3 bedrooms?
It's, we have 8 2-bedroom, 1 studio, and 41 1-bedroom.
okay. So 2 bedrooms potentially could have 2 drivers, and any of the single one-bedrooms could have 2 drivers, so you could have 100 cars out there. I'm just concerned, I know you say they don't have to provide any parking in the district, but I'm concerned because you can't park on Grace Street, can you?
You cannot park on Gray Street,
can
but you can park
park on
on Jackson
15th.
and 15th.
Yeah. And
I understand your concern. I think if you look at historically, the direction the city's been going in is we actually reduced the amount of parking spaces. The requirement used to be 2.5 spaces per unit. We reduced it to 1 per unit. We didn't completely get there, but the approach we were trying to go to was a more of a market demand. And especially in this instance, if they're not able to park the units adequately, they're not going to be able to rent the units. I believe they have looked into some other options, possibly parking areas in other locations. Yet I think really in these urban environments with these very large buildings, if we start putting some very strict or pushing for more parking than what the market really can dictate, we're not going to be able to rehabilitate the building. So while it is a valid concern, I don't think it lends itself to not really supporting the redevelopment of the park.
yeah, I mean, I'd love it if, more people would not have cars, if they would do, I don't know that we have any ride-sharing system around here like they have in bigger cities, but, I mean, that would be great if we did. Then you wouldn't need but so many parking spaces. But, yeah, you're right, the market will determine that, I think.
And the bus line goes right down Gray Street.
So on that block, there's a stop on that block, isn't there?
Yes.
On one of the corners, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just going to ask.
Odds like me, it'd always be broken down. You wouldn't have to worry about driving.
The only thing I'd throw, though, given that, and I understand where you're coming from, Tom, but I think the issue there is any overflow in the street, I don't care if it's Jackson or Grace, is going to be disruptive. So anything you can squeeze out for parking spots, I think would make sense.
Sure.
And I think that, you're kind of looking at that anyway with your comment about the loading dock, because I just think that would make a huge difference driving down that road to have people parked on the side.
Well, not to get into your business plan, but just to answer some of the questions. If I understand the tax credit operation correctly, for commercial purposes, you've got to have those in apartments in 5 years, is my understanding, when you have them for commercial purposes. And then you have the option, if you want to move to sell units as condos. And you don't need a response one way or another, but because those are issues that you work through in your business plan. But obviously, the parking is, as Tom said, is going to be reflective in how you manage the property. I wish you have 100% occupancy, but we also know that 100% occupancy typically doesn't happen. So I think the parking is a valid concern, but when you compare what the downside of it is to the effect on the neighborhood and the continued deterioration of the building, I'm happy to see you all moving in there.
One question, I don't know if you know this, Tom, but the city owns the house, there's a large house on the corner of 1517 Jackson, and it's designated as like parkland. What is the...
I want to say it's some form of a group home.
It used to be the Spark House.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was for girls, and I don't know if it's still that.
And I thought that was part of the
I think originally it was part of that facility years ago. One big thing, but it reminds me a lot of the school on Rivermont, the one at Riverside Park, and we had a full house then. People, discussing, and parking was the big issue, and we had squeezed in some spaces in that. But I think it's a really neat. I used to live on Washington Street, so having seen this there for a long time, it's neat to see something happening with it.
Yeah, I'm thrilled about this use because I think looking down the road, this is a pretty innovative use for something that could go the other way pretty quickly. So, yeah.
This is the building that used to be the Marshall Lodge, right?
Yeah.
Yes. It's a historic building.
It's a distinctive looking building.
Yeah,
It's
it really is.
something we definitely want to hold on to. So, yeah.
Any other comments?
All right, make a motion to approve it as presented.
I'll second it.
All right. Well, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? It carries, and look forward to seeing that thing move forward. And you'll get your time in council, and then hopefully we'll see something happening soon. Thank you very much. All right. Well, do we have any other business?
Hesitant to bring it up, but last meeting, the commission met in council chambers.
Don't
And
tell me we didn't vote valid.
We have to redo that again?
no. From time to time, the commission has met down there, and over the years, the commission has discussed whether or not to move the meetings to council chambers. There's obviously pro and con to doing that. My thought on it is as a city planner, is that there's definitely a different atmosphere in council chambers, and the thought of planning commissions in the past has been that the meetings are more roll up your sleeve, closer knit. Let's get down to work. It's a different environment in this room than it is in council chambers. So that's why we've kept them up here historically. But I thought I heard some discussion about maybe a desire to move it down to council chambers. While I wouldn't recommend that, it's definitely up to you. So I just wanted to have you guys discuss that.
Before we get into that, can I just ask why you guys obviously had something else in mind?
Well, we had concerns about the apartment building and didn't want to interrupt y'all. But we all live like right next to the building. So is there going to be a time for public input on this?
There was.
Yeah. there was.
Yeah, so when we said like all in favor, anybody in favor want to speak about this, or anybody opposed?
That was just for y'all.
Yeah, but we do have people who come and watch the hearing, so that's why I didn't like say, hey.
Well, it's still going to go before council.
The council, it will be heard there.
Yeah, we heard, yeah.
So I do have, we do have some input, and I think some positive input, and maybe some ideas. But the parking is definitely an issue. I know there's two big empty lots across the street on Grace Street that would make a lot of sense to me. And also one of my biggest things, if this is going to go through, and I know everything's been going great with the city, it looks really good, but I think that spot up there would be a really good place to have some crossing walks and some speed bumps, especially with all this extra added traffic. And I guess what I'm thinking is any creative, I have some creative input that could that I would offer up if I could have a place to do that. And I guess I missed it on this one because it's the first time I've done this. But.
Well, I'd encourage you definitely to go to the city council, and I do think like as a group that's something that we've talked about, getting together and talking about different things, and I'm sure that's something that we need to get together and hear about traffic, crosswalks. I know there's ideas that pop up, throughout the year.
You may want to run out in the hall and talk.
Yeah, and speak with.
I met them already earlier today and spoke, but because I had done some research prior to that. But also, if I could just add, just because I'm a creative person, but the other thing that I saw that would maybe could be done is, I call it kind of like what the Rivermont business got with the lights and everything. I could see that coming off the expressway and coming on down Grace Street with the sidewalks fixed and the nice lights. And
It'd be nice.
accenting that, but, you know.
Well, that's what
wishful
you.
thinking
Yeah,
for
what you
me.
need to do is call. There's a guy named Tom Martin. He makes these plans, and there's some great ones. So I'd encourage you to also check the website and look at some of the plans. But I think that it's great to bring that up. Well, I wish we had known that beforehand. If someone had run into you beforehand to make sure that you get up and speak.
I'm sorry I missed that too. I was like, I think we just missed our opportunity.
Well, I don't think it would have changed our vote. So you're still kind of indirectly getting the stuff on record. And not only can you actually present to City Council, but if you've got concrete ideas, put them in writing and send them into City Council ahead of time.
Yeah.
And they're the ones who make the official vote. And they will listen to you just like we're listening to you now.
I think it could be a very good anchor.
Yep.
We all have kids and traffic.
Sure.
By all the time.
Right.
The idea of having 50 apartment buildings up on the corner is great, but also a little intimidating for reasons like traffic and increased traffic, and it's a real concern.
And folks who don't have driveways. I mean, I do,
Yeah.
but not everyone does.
Right.
And that's, that dominates downtown.
Sure.
What, not to give you any more unsolicited advice, but because it's been good, but if, the advice of Ms. Marion to talk to the developer is, I mean, City Council loves it when the developer and the neighborhood come together and it's not a bunch of issues. And sometimes that is not possible, but talking to them about some of these ideas, because they, can work on some of those ideas before the City Council meeting so that wouldn't be an issue potentially.
And I will say I have seen the FFE building because I lived in Richmond for 12 years and I used to smell the cookies at the cookie factory. I love that. But they just did it and it looks great. I mean, the whole area around it, and I foresee that building doing that for that part of our hill there. So
That's great. Well, thanks for the input either way. Like I said, having citizen comment to kind of guide us in other things as well, as I'd say is really important.
Yes.
So,
Yep.
thank you.
thank you.
So,
So Tom
No, I
raised this
appreciate
issue. I don't know if anybody, obviously different feelings, but I think we just saw it in action. Would this
The
kind of
example.
interaction happen if we'd
Right.
been down at City Council chambers? Probably
Yeah.
not. Yeah,
I mean, last meeting we had to meet there.
yeah.
It was a different type of meeting, and the numbers forced it. But most of our meetings,
and one thing I would say, we've talked about this. I think it would be really nice to actually have some type of lighting system for the speakers when we do have more than 5 or 10 people in here, because sometimes the iPad is hard for me to see.
actually, as a former chair, I think that's a necessity.
And I think that would make, to me, this room is perfect other than when we have those big meetings. Even if there's a good number of people, I think it does give people more of a close feeling. You can really mingle afterwards instead of being up high on a... I did get the feeling that some people are like, yeah, well, you guys are just trying to run everything. And it's like, we're really part of the community.
But having a timing system would be very
Yeah.
helpful.
Robin would have to come run it, though.
Is that something that you all would look into?
We've looked into doing the same sort of remote control cameras and sound system up here as what exists downstairs. It's really a question of money right now.
Yeah, do something cheap is what I'm thinking.
If you just had the screen flash.
Yeah.
To be quite honest.
No, they're talking just about
Just the
About the
timer.
timer, yeah. And I
Yeah.
don't know whether that was included in it, but I don't think it would be a fairly easy thing to
Yeah.
buy and install.
But otherwise, I appreciate you bringing this up. There are times being down there is helpful. Times like this, it's great just being here. And I think we are all fine when we do meet down there out of necessity.
It's one flight less. If you're running tight, it's a little closer.
Yes.
So
Well, I want to obviously state the obvious. When it's a more contentious meeting, it's a lot better to have the formal atmosphere, because I think it makes everybody behave a little bit better.
Yeah.
We do have a little hatch in the back. All right, well, any other business or any other questions, things to bring up? Then someone have a motion?
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, let's go.
All right, I got my walker.